Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Tuesday. It is 3 p.m. ET, and you have found us here. We are so happy that you have found us here on Crime Time on A Mighty Blaze. I'm your host, Hank Phillippi Ryan, the USA Today bestselling author of 16 going on 17 novels of suspense. My current book is All This Could Be Yours, so casually displayed on the door behind me, an instant USA Today bestseller. And please watch for Mother, Daughter, Sister, Stranger, coming out in September. But we are not here to talk about my books today, unless you really want to, but we won't. We're going to talk to the fabulous, wonderful, brilliant genius that is Brad Meltzer. You all know Brad Meltzer, and I will just take 2 seconds to tell you that Brad was one of the very first real famous author type people that I met, even before my first book came out. And Brad, you were so nice at Brookline Booksmith. You were so nice to newbie me 20 years ago. Do you remember that event in the basement of Brookline Booksmith?
Not only do I remember it, and my mentor who gave me my start, who gave me my first job, who was the first person who ever took a chance on me, was the last person in line at that event. And it was right before he passed away. And to have the person who gave you your shot be then cheering for you and standing in line there. I still have a picture of that moment. It is one of the most humbling moments. I'm glad that I was nice to, because I was in clear just shock when I caught his eye, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's here. So Eli Siegel passed away, but Eli Siegel I owe forever. In fact, I dedicated I Am George Washington to him, because he was he taught me the value of citizen leadership.
It's so interesting to hear you say that about Eli Siegel, and how when we say his name, we remember him, and you remember all that he did for you. And I do think, at least partly, he must have given you one of the gifts that you have now, which is really passing on that empathy and that kindness and that feeling that whatever world we're in, we're all in it together. I mean, I feel that from all of your books.
No, I love you for it. Listen, it's not just something that Eli gave me. He taught it to me. And I was a lucky recipient. The thing that the great irony that my brain is still spinning with is, you were at that event too. And you said I was nice to you. And I only remember Eli because the very first time I met him, he was nice to me. So in that same event, I was receiving and playing back everything he gave me. It was a full circle, like the snake swallowing its own tail. And I just think, cruelty and venom and harshly judging those we disagree with has become sport in our culture. But cruelty and venom aren't signs of strength. They're signs of weakness and petty insecurity. And what takes strength is showing some kindness and showing some empathy and showing some decency to people. And I have tried to, of course, put that in my books, but more important, I try to put it in my life every single day. I mean, every day. You know how it is. You get phone calls or things from readers or someone that says, hey, I wrote a book and you helped me put it out there. And anyone who follows me on social media knows I will put them out there for any first-time author that needs help. I will always blast it out, retweet it, do whatever the thing you're supposed to do with it is. Just because how else do I want to live my life but trying to give back a little bit what's been given to me?
I mean, it's such the golden rule, and we forget it. And it's a decision that we all make millions of times every day. And being kind and being good and being empathetic is something that grows as we do it. And you are certainly the icon of that. Absolutely. Your new book, The Viper, is just out. And there are even many vestiges of that in this book, and we'll talk about it in a minute. And you have another book out today. Can you hold that book up for us? And we'll
Ta-da!
That is
I am Princess Diana. So we have The Viper if you want to murder people. And if you like your children, then you can give them I Am Princess Diana by myself and Chris Eliopoulos. And I love the fact that I get to speak to you. Today is the launch day of this book, which is our first children's book about empathy. And I really wanted to do it. I'm Amelia Earhart, I am Abraham Lincoln, I am Rosa Parks. And, those are the easy ones to pick. But I said, what do our kids need right now? And I said, our kids need empathy. We need to teach them decency, and we need to teach them compassion. And anyone who knows the story of Princess Diana knows she was the one who taught that better than anybody. And we can talk about her, of course.
Absolutely, we will do that. And you all, lucky, lucky listeners, it's so nice to see you all. Sherry is here, and Betty Fellows is here, and Melanie is here, and that's fantastic. Wonderful to see you all. One of you lucky winners will win the Viper when we spin the Wheel of Fun at the end of the show, and another second lucky winner will win I Am Princess Diana. So this is a big giveaway day here on Primetime. If you are new to A Mighty Blaze, let me tell you very, very quickly, Mighty Blaze was started 5 years ago at the beginning of the pandemic by the marvelous powerhouse duo of Jenna Blum and Caroline Levitt to keep us discovering new books, to keep us reading, to keep us as a community of readers and writers, and maybe to find your new favorite book. And that might be today, The Viper by Brad Meltzer. I'm going to talk for 10 more seconds and just tell you a little bit about Brad Meltzer, and then I promise I'll let you talk, Brad. I know it's like Hank is talking. She's just talking.
No, I love it.
Let me tell you a little bit about Brad. Brad Meltzer is the Emmy-nominated #1 New York Times bestselling author of The Viper, The Lightning Rod, The Escape Artist, and 12 other best-selling thrillers. He also writes nonfiction books like The JFK Conspiracy, about a secret plot to kill JFK before he was sworn in, and The Ordinary People Change the World kid book series. He also writes terrific kids books like I Am Sally Ride, We Are the Beatles, and I Am Simone Biles. And new today, as we said, I Am, hold that up, Perfect Princess Diana. And we will ask him about that as well. His newest inspirational book is called Make Magic, based on his viral commencement address, which our darling producer Jade said that she watched and loved. She was very touched by that. She is in college now. And so that connection is really quite astonishing. Anyway, Brad, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh, so good to be here.
Tell us about this book.
Yeah, so The Viper begins with a man walking into a funeral home, and he's carrying his favorite blue suit. He's got a terminal disease, and this is the suit that he wants to be buried in. But here's the thing, Hank. If you go into your local bank and you open up a safety deposit box, paperwork gets filed. Means the government, if they want to, can track it. Same thing if you go to the UPS store and you open up a P.O. box. But if you secretly sew something into the lining of your suit and you hand that suit to your local mortician, you have the ultimate untraceable hiding spot. So the man hands over the suit, goes back to his hotel room. There's a guy with a gun waiting who says, "Where is it?" Man says, "What? I don't know what you're talking about." The guy shoots him dead. And that suit is still in the funeral home. You won't believe what's hidden inside it or who's about to find it. And that is chapter 1 of The Viper.
That is chapter 1 of The Viper. And that is just about as irresistible as it gets. And the story is so gorgeously constructed. And I want to talk about that in a minute. But on the front, it says a Zig and Nola novel. Can you tell us what that means?
Yeah, so Zig and Nola, my characters, if you've never read them before, you can see on the front of the book, our blurb says, this is the perfect book to start and read and meet Zig and Nola. Zig is a character who, he's a mortician. He loves, and kind of think of if a certain age of Quincy, right? Like the guy who just deals with that dead body. But what I love about Zig is Zig believes that if you are a good person and you put kindness into the world, you make the world a better place. It's a beautiful idea. A completely naive idea, but it's an idea worth fighting for. And I had this book and thought, okay, I got my characters, I'm ready to go. And I knew I had this other character I wanted to write, but I'm like, I'll figure that character out later. And I was I'll never forget, I was in a warehouse with the military. And they were taking me through this big warehouse that was filled with art. And I'm like, why does the military have all these paintings? And they explained to me that since World War I, and this is true, the U.S. Army has had a painter on staff who paints disasters as they happen, whether it's storming the beaches of Normandy, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's 9/11. And I said, you're telling me that everyone is racing in with guns blazing, and you've got someone racing in with nothing but paintbrushes in their pockets. I'm like, that guy sounds crazy. I want to meet him. I got to meet him. And they said, you mean her. You want to meet her. It was a woman who was called the artist in residence, the painter on staff in the military. And as soon as I heard it, my character Nola was born. And Nola believes, forget what Zig says, that's nonsense. If you want the world to make sense, you grab it by the throat and you force it to make sense. People compare it to the girl with the dragon tattoo. So if you like the girl with the dragon tattoo, you'll love Nola. But what I realized, Hank, is that I've written them for 3 books now. And I thought you know what? I'm both of them, right? I'm Zig. I believe if you're a good person, you put good into the world becomes a better place. But I also believe I'm Nola. I feel like if you see injustice or you see someone being picked on, you got to fight like you've never fought before. And that to me is also an idea worth fighting for. And I thought all these books are me trying to choose between which version of me is right. And I finally realized when I was writing The Viper is you don't have to pick. We're all Zig, we're all kind, and we're all Nola. We all fight if we see someone, especially someone we love, being picked on. And what you really have to do is just love yourself for who you are, all the different parts of yourself. And that's really what's at the core of The Viper.
It is what's at the core of The Viper, but it is also a fast-paced, page-turning thriller that you absolutely cannot put down. And one of the things about the book that's so lovely to read is that it's like a puzzle. You, Brad, give us a puzzle piece and then another puzzle piece and another puzzle piece. And as we're reading as fast as we possibly can, we're sort of putting those trying to put the puzzle pieces together in our head of a picture that we don't know what is. Talk a little bit about that structure, introducing us to new characters, new situations, a little bit of a time shift. And your readers are smart. And the way this story comes together is so ingenious. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for me, it's what I want when I'm a reader. I want to turn the pages. I want to try and guess. If I'm reading a book and I guess the ending, I win. And if you're reading one of my books and you guess the ending, you win. But my one rule is you got to play fair. So all my pieces, I'll put them all out there. Now, you can't just make it like, it's the butler who did it and you haven't seen the butler since page 12, right? So I always put the pieces out there. And what I do is I kind of give the books to my friends who have been my readers for almost 30 years now. And I can see what happens is like the best, when I'm reading a book, my favorite thing is when I'm reading and I'm turning the pages, but I'm also learning something. If I'm learning something, there's something new, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's real. Like, for instance, in this book, I was obsessed with witness protection.
Well, let me interrupt you for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I do want to talk to you about witness protection, about
okay, I'll save that. I'm going to talk about structure.
Funeral homes and witness protection and things you love that are in this book, which the witness protection element, which you brought up, which is so perfect and so fascinating. How did you pick that? And what did you learn about it? And what was the rabbit hole you went down with that research?
Yeah, I just pick what I'm interested in. I know one thing, I'm not that special. If I like it, someone else is going to hopefully like. So I've taken my readers in the underground tunnel below the White House. I've taken them in the hidden labyrinth below the Capitol. I just was like, how does the government hide anyone anymore in witness protection, right? Think about it. It used to be someone moved to your neighborhood and you say, oh, there's someone new. And then you said, I guess that's the new neighbor. But now if someone moves to your neighborhood, what do? We go on Facebook and we see if they have a Facebook page, see what their background is, where they're from, where they went to school. If they don't have a Facebook page, now we get even more suspicious. So now we start digging deep. We go on Zillow, we see how much they paid for their house. We see if they're in the thing that says they're a predator or on some kind of list where they were arrested. We rip people's lives apart. And how does the government hide someone or create a new identity in today's world? And that's where I started with. And I promise you, when you read The Viper, you'll never look at witness protection or hiding from the government the same way again. And in fact, one of the things I learned, when witness protection started it was for mobsters. It was to help the mob and get the mob. We think of Tony Soprano, we think of the end of Goodfellas, but what happened is it worked. It actually worked. And mobsters got taken down. The mob is not as powerful as it used to be, but it's not like crime stopped. So instead, for a while, the biggest group in witness protection were mobsters, but then other crime started thriving. So gang members became the biggest group in witness protection. And after that, when 9/11 happened, we started chasing terrorists. So terrorists became the biggest group in witness protection. You want to know, Hank, one of the biggest groups in witness protection today? It's accountants. Because today, data is king. And I love that fact. So when you read The Viper, you're just seeing my fascination with how to hide. And I promise you, you'll see the coolest new way to hide from the government you've never thought of.
I love this. And it works, doesn't it?
It works. I mean, that's the thing is I talk, when I did my event, I was in Virginia. And whenever I do my events in DC, all the people who work in these places will come to me and they're like, oh, I'm reading the book. Like, here's where our safe house is here. I'm like, why are you telling me now? I just wrote the book. I could have used that 2 years ago, but that'll go in the next book. And so I always wind up, the Secret Service has helped me for 20 years now, FBI, CIA, you name it, because they read the books. And, I've gotten letters from President Clinton and President Bush that they read the books. They invited me to the White House for, private lunches at the White House. I was like, and so I've been very lucky. But when I go to those places, what am I doing? I'm not just going for a cool meal. I'm going to look for what's going to be in the next book. So when you read my books, you will turn the pages. You will try to guess the murderer. When you get to the end, I want you, if you didn't guess it, to go, how did I not guess that? All the clues were right there. But what I want you to do is you learn something every single time you turn the page.
Oh, I always feel smarter when I read your books. And it is such a testament to you as a person that these people continue to trust you with information because they know that you respect them and you'll get the information right and you sort of use it for good.
But it's not only that, I appreciate you saying that, but it's also that they tell me what I can't print. So the Secret Service has said to me, listen, we're going to tell you this secret, but you can't tell anyone and can't write about this, but you need to understand this so you can understand this secret, which you can print. And again, I've been working with them for 25 years. I've never once broken my word. I take that seriously.
You're reliable. So yeah. They trust you. And that is really, really cool. And then if you go to the White House, you can find out about the silverware and the napkins and the weight.
And secret tunnels below it.
And you take us there so gorgeously. Also the funeral parlor industry and
yes,
morticians.
That's my obsession. I know.
Why is it your obsession? And wow, it's so interesting in this book. We're talking just arrived. We're talking about The Viper by Brad Meltzer, which you do not want to miss. So talk a little bit about that.
I think the truth is I buried both my parents. And I think for a while I was trying to figure out, how do I deal with their deaths? How do I get over their deaths? That was as honest as it could be. It wasn't more complex than that. So I just became obsessed with like funeral homes and these worlds that I didn't know about. And what I was obsessed with wasn't funeral homes. Those are depressing. Who wants to go into a funeral home? What I was obsessed with was grief and the people who deal every day with grief. And what I was really looking for in those lives was, how am I going to get over the death of my mom, who I adored and missed, right? She's been gone almost 18 years now. And what I finally realized, Hank, is I'm never going to get over it. Never. I wrote a book about, a character who lost their mom, didn't get over it. I wrote one character who lost their dad. I'm never going to get over it. And anyone who's lost someone deep in their soul knows that you never get over it. And that person deserves to be remembered. My mother and my father, may they rest in peace, deserve to be remembered. The only thing you get to do when you lose someone deep to your core like that is you transform. You become stronger in some ways and weaker in others, but you become someone new. And I think as when you read The Viper, you'll see it's me dealing with my own grief in a way that's just obviously much more fun, because there's murderers and killers and there's things and there's, you're trying to guess who done it. But at the core of it has to be something much more human. I mean, my favorite stories are not the ones that have the best characters or even the best plot or even the best twists, but they're the ones that say something about me. Right? That they say something, when your favorite story are the ones that say something deep about you, whether it's your hopes, your dreams, a character you aspire to be one day, or one that reminds you of your worst enemy, but it hits you right here. And in those books, all I'm doing in The Viper or any other book is pouring my own self into it and then trying to figure my own way out of whatever hole I'm in.
Is that where the dedication came from at the beginning?
So there's a fellow Bostonite for you. So that the dedication at the beginning is, this book is dedicated to Jill Neerum, who was my agent since I was 24 years old. She lived in Boston. I started writing in Boston, where I met you. And she was my wise soul, I called her. And she passed away. This is the first book I wrote where Jill wasn't there. She was there at the beginning, so she knew what the plot was. And she knew some of the characters in there. She helped me with some of the character stuff in the beginning, because we always would talk over stuff. But it was the first book I really had to, for the most part, write without her at all. And it wrecked me. I mean, that's the grief that I'm dealing with now. It's why when I finish the book, it is dedicated to Jill Neerum, my wise soul.
Yes, I remember her well. And I do think that, so she gave you wings or allowed you to use your wings.
And
And
what does it say? Well, it says she found me as a first draft.
uh,
And that's what I really believe. I believe we're all first drafts. There's a word at the end of the book called pentimento. And I never heard of the word. I didn't know what it meant. But pentimento is a painting term. And it's a term for when you go look and paint on an old painting gets so old, it becomes transparent. You can start seeing through it. And you can see the lines that the painter makes on the canvas. That original first draft they put down, right? The mistakes they make, the regrets they have. There's a woman's skirt that's facing this way, and then they change their mind and they make it face this way. You can go see an old Rembrandt, you'll see those lines behind the paint. And what had occurred to me when I was writing The Viper is we're all first drafts. Our lives are, all of us, filled with mistakes and filled with regrets, but you can't make a masterpiece without them.
That is one of the things that I have in my notes, actually, that seems so interesting. We're talking about The Viper by Brad Meltzer, a thriller of the highest order, absolute first class page turner. But there's a lot underneath this story, and we'll talk about some of the other things that are underneath the story. But one of the things is sort of regret, the things we could have done or might have done, or the decisions that we made, and how the dominoes that fall as a result of those decisions affect our lives and the lives of others. Was that deliberate, or did that evolve?
I wish I was smart enough that everything's deliberate. I think what I've done as I got older and as I write more is just being more honest. And I'll say it this way. I had a complicated relationship with my father. When I graduated college, I had all this debt to pay off because he couldn't pay my way through college the whole way. They tried to kick me out when he stopped paying the bills on my senior year. But I made deals and we got loans and we did the thing, and quicksand became solid ground. And then I graduated college, moved to Boston, and I changed my home address to my new address. And all of a sudden, $40,000 of credit card debt started coming my way. All these credit card companies asking for their money on credit cards that I never opened, but they were all in my name. That's how my dad was paying for my college. Those offers they give to a student that says, hey, sign up for a new credit card? My dad said yes to all of them in my name and signed up for them, trying to pay for college, which is such a dumb plan because a loan is 1% in college. A credit card is a 22% loan. So why would you take a 22 to 25% loan when you could have a 1% loan? But what I couldn't see, and this is a story I told at my dad's funeral, is my dad used to get beat up by his own father when he was little. My grandfather used to punch him, hit him, and it was terrible. And I know my dad used to jump in front of his own younger brother, my uncle, to take the hits for him so he wouldn't get hit. I know he jumped in front of his own mom, my grandmother, and take the hits for her so she wouldn't get hit. But here's the part, Hank, I couldn't see in the story, is that that's what my dad was trying to do for me. He was trying to take those financial hits so I could become the first in my immediate family to actually get out and go to a 4-year college. But I couldn't see that part of the story because I was so angry at all the chaos he was causing in my life and all the headache he was causing in my life and all these debt that I had to get out of in my life. And it took me till The Viper, until I was writing it, that I was like, what's all this regret? And I made peace with him before he died. He knew I loved him dearly, but I wasn't sure I ever forgave him, and I regretted that. And that was something that you can see in those characters, is trying to give yourself a little bit of that relief and a little bit of that grace to forgive yourself.
And I see not only the regret in the story, but also you channeling from time to time a little bit of that fear of a parent or a guardian physically harming a child, and what result that can have and how the child turns out.
Yeah, I mean, Nola has a rough childhood, and what I love about Nola is all she does is fight against it. And Nola gets out, but you have to understand where she comes from, right? I mean, if I said to anyone watching right now, tell me about your childhood, you'll see parts of who you are. And it's not that we repeat all the time. You'll see the better parts, the things you persevered over, the things you've overcome. Like what I love about Zig and Nola is you see all the stuff that they've been through, but all they've overcome and achieved and come out on the other side of. And that's what inspires me, is people who fight through it and fight to a new level. And at the end of the day, I still think, I had a cop yesterday wrote to me, and this is cops are the most kind of jaded people out there. They just see crime all the time. And he said, when I got to the end of the Viper, I was just crying tears of joy. There was so much hope at the end of the book for what Zig and Nola as they come together. And I just love the fact that this jaded cop can find tears of joy in that. Like, to me, the hope has to always overcome any sadness in there.
Yes, and I think that is a through line in all of your books, is that there is some light in the darkness, but what we go through is really.
Oh, I take you through it. Oh yeah, no, if we're gonna twist and have a good murder mystery, there's gonna be some twists.
But it's, you know what, I was thinking earlier about you today, and I was thinking, Brad is such a Renaissance man, and then I thought, kind of a gonzo Renaissance man, I think is more what you are, because you're so funny. The book has some really funny parts. It also sort of takes in some of the things that I think that you must think are cool, like fast cars and movies and Howard Johnson's and all those little.
Oh, my subconscious is on display. Like every movie line from like I can't tell you how many people like caught the Mean Girls references, caught the Smokey and the Bandit references, caught every song from Hall and Oates to the Breakfast Club to everything. Like if you love 80s references, like I challenge you to find a book littered with more 80s stuff. And that yellow Corvette that's in that book is I actually don't think fast cars are that cool. It's my father-in-law's car when I was in high school. Oh. And I just remember it was his midlife crisis. And I'm like, it's going in the book. Yeah. So I put my whole childhood kind of gets fed into this and to show you where these grown characters have come from and what 80 movies they saw, from Ferris Bueller to anything else.
It's so much fun to read. And one of the things that shows your skill is that those things, the references, don't get in the way, because it's so natural and so seamless, and your dialogue is so funny. Talk a little bit about how you write dialogue. I mean, how does it come out feeling so real and so specific for each person?
Yeah, I hear them in my head. The dialogue is the part that, and nothing's ever easy writing, as you know, right? But for me, the dialogue is the stuff that comes most naturally. And the joking, however, is the result. And my writing process is I give it to my wife. She's my first reader. Before even Jill would read it, my wife would get it. And what she always does is she takes out my jokes, says, you're not as funny as you think you are. And she starts taking out jokes. And I always go, I'm so funny here and I'm funny here too. And she's like, you're not. So what you see is the result of probably 20% more jokes that have been taken out. So only the good ones remain. And that's really part of the process, is this back and forth with my wife, who I trust like nobody else. And if I can make her laugh, then I know it's a good joke. That's it.
I'm imagining her doing the joke triage, like.
Oh, she is. If she laughs, it stays. And if she doesn't laugh, I know it's not going to work.
This is, I get such a kick out of your books, because underneath I can feel that you love this. How are you as a writer and a storyteller?
Yeah, it's funny. Every book is hard. They're all hard. They're not, anyone who says it's so easy to write, to me, you're doing it wrong. Like God bless, there are people who like it's so simple. Not for me. I work really hard at it every single day. And some days are great. And some days you're like, man, nothing, this was a bunch of garbage today, but I'm going to get it tomorrow. The one thing is I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. That's my one thing. I will sit my butt in that chair and I will write. I got 24 rejection letters on my first book ever. There were only 20 publishers. I got 24 rejection letters, which means some people were writing me twice to make sure I got the point. But I said, if they don't like that book, I'll write another. And if they don't like that, I'll write another. And for me, the process is, I think the reason why you feel, and this is actually the most, of all the things we've been talking about, the most meaningful thing to me. There's one of the most famous writers on the planet is a thriller writer who once has a famous character that everyone knows, and said to me, if I have to write this character again, he said to me privately, I want to put a gun in my mouth. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I never want to be you now. Like, you have all the success, so much more success than I will ever have. You sell so many more books than I will ever sell, but I never want to hate what I love so much. And for me, going to do the kids' books, going to do the conspiracy books, going to do Make Magic as a book, like those things, when I walk away from the thrillers, allow me to come back completely recharged for them. So I'm not just on book 14 churning it out and hating everything I do. So that's really what I think. And it wasn't planned that way. I just was like, oh, I want to do kids books because I had kids, and oh, I want to do history books because I like history, and I just like a lot of stuff. But what it did unknowingly as I was doing it was it charged me up to make sure that I still have that thing that makes you just go, I still love this.
And it comes through on the pages. And what a wonderful transition you've done so seamlessly to take us into your I Am Princess Diana book. Tell us
Oh,
a little bit about the and then I want you to ask questions. Remember to get you to
oh
get
yeah.
together. You all, I see Andrew Ball, and I see Oliver is here, and Renee Herskowitz is here, and Julie Brinkley is here, and Darlene is here. I'm squinting at the screen. So nice to see you, Vicki Gregory. Darlene is here. Fabulous to see you all today. I'm squinting at the screen. I still think if I get closer to the screen, I can see it better. That is not true. But anyway, ask Brad questions about anything. Coming up in about 2 minutes, we will have Jade put up some questions for you. But Brad, tell us about your Princess Diana book, please, please, please.
Yeah. So the truth is when I started the process, I basically wanted to give my kids better heroes to look up to. My kids were little. I was tired of them looking at people on Instagram who have 1 million likes and thinking that's a hero. That's fame, right? And being famous is very different than being a hero. So we started with Amelia Earhart. I said to my daughter, look, here's Amelia Earhart. She's so amazing. And she wasn't impressed. She's like, big deal, Dad. Everyone flies across the Atlantic. Who cares about flying across the Atlantic? But I told her, and this is a true story, when Amelia Earhart was 7 years old, she built a homemade roller coaster in her backyard. She took a wooden crate, she put roller skating wheels in the bottom, she shoved it to the roof of her tool shed, and she came flying down the side, went flying through the air. And I told my daughter that the first time Amelia Earhart ever flew, this is true, she was 7 years old. And my daughter's like, I like that story. So we did I'm Amelia Earhart and I'm Abraham Lincoln, showing you these heroes when they're kids. Yes, as adults too, but when they're kids. And we did Rosa Parks and Dr. King. And again, if I said to you, pick your favorite heroes, you'd pick a lot of the same people, right? But then we're now at 36 books in the series. I was like, what do our kids need? So I was like, our kids are in a mental health crisis right now. So we did I Am Simone Biles. I wanted to teach them how to come together instead of fighting. So we did We Are the Beatles. And then I said, I need to do a book on empathy. I need to do a book on teaching people the value of compassion. And so we did I Am Princess Diana, which was a book, Princess Diana, when and everyone, some people may have forgotten the story, when AIDS first kind of reared its head, no one knew if you touched an AIDS patient or you were too close to an AIDS patient, would you get AIDS? Would you die? What was going to happen? And there's this wonderful moment where Princess Diana sees this AIDS patient who's suffering, and she wants to hug him but doesn't know what to do, and she's like, just hug him. And she hugs this man who smiles, and it's just captured by cameras, and it just breaks open. I know it sounds silly now and trite now, because of course we know AIDS doesn't feel like the threat it was back in those days, but she was the one who said, just have compassion for people, show them empathy. And she did it with lepers and people who were homeless and people who had no money, and over, just giving people a hug. And man, as a culture right now, that's the lesson I want my daughter to have. That's the lesson I want my sons to have, is instead of fighting with everyone, show some love and some decency and some compassion to each other. That's an actual fight worth fighting.
And I know all of our listeners have kids in their lives, whether kids or their own children or grandchildren or someone that they love. What is the age range for these books, and what's been the response to them?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, people buy them when they're newborn babies and they build a library. It's really about 4 to 12 years old is where we get kids. And Amelia Earhart and Abraham Lincoln are the kind of easiest ones because they're youngest. So if you have a 4 or 5-year-old, it's great. But obviously, Princess Diana, you can read about compassion and empathy until you're 10, 11, 12 years old. And the response is staggering. I mean, we had Billie Jean King helped us with the I Am Billie Jean King book. We had Dolly Parton help with her book. Jane Goodall, may she rest in peace, help with her book. John Lewis helped with the I Am Dr. King book. So they've been, I think, something like 7 million copies now in print of this series, and embraced in schools and libraries all across the country. I never thought this project that started for myself, for my own kids, and for Chris, our artist, Eliopoulos, our amazing artist, for his kids, would turn into this thing that people build libraries of real heroes for their kids and their grandkids, their nieces, their nephews. And the true secret weapon is Chris's art. It has like this style that's like Charlie Brown meets Calvin and Hobbes, and that's why kids love it. You know
Exactly.
how many books have been written about her, but they like this because Chris's art it has nothing to do with me. It's Chris's art is so beautiful to look at. So kids love seeing themselves as a little kid. They can see themselves and say, oh, this person was just like me. They were a kid just like me once. And that's the power.
Yeah, it is very powerful, and it is such a gift. Are you going to do more of them?
Yeah, so our next book is coming out in just a couple of months. We do 3 a year. So we do I Am Teddy Roosevelt comes after that, and then we do the 40th book in the series, which is we're doing let me say this. So we had people vote. Ready, Hank? I want you to vote.
Oh.
On the 40th book in the series, we have people vote between LeBron James, the Wright brothers, or Taylor Swift. Who do you think won?
Am I voting or am I predicting?
Predict.
All right, I don't know. I could make an argument for any of those, but I would pick the Wright brothers, but I don't know what people would pick.
Well, the Wright brothers actually won. And my daughter said to me, yeah, Dad, but did kids vote or did parents vote? And I said, yeah, but do kids pay or do parents pay? And so we are doing the Wright brothers. And then our 41st book in the series will be I Am Taylor Swift, because we wanted to do a book for that as well. So my goal when I started was to do 100 books. And I said, I want to build a library. I want people to have a library where they can show to their kids and their grandkids what real heroes look like. And I think what we do now with our heroes, we build statues of them in Washington, D.C., and everyone goes to worship. And we think that we treat them like these lowercase g gods, like they're perfect in every way. But every person I mentioned you here today, whether it's Amelia Earhart, whether it's Abraham Lincoln, whether it's Princess Diana, Rosa Parks, Dr. King, they all have moments where they were scared and they were terrified and they didn't know if they could go on. And they're human beings just like us. And we have to remind our kids that. So in every book, you see their failures too. You see half a dozen elections that Abraham Lincoln lost. You see the election that George Washington lost. You see that Rosa Parks, that wasn't the first time she met that bus driver on that famous day. He kicked her off the bus long before that day, and she didn't do anything that day. She was terrified and moved out. And so you see their failures, and then you see their success. And that's what greatness is to me, is getting knocked down, but of course, teaching your kids and grandkids how to get back up.
And the idea of teaching a kid to get back up is such a valuable lesson. And you've given them these icons to look at, to see that there is, that if you try and persevere and believe in yourself.
Right. But I could say those words.
Right.
But that's like saying to your kid, be good and expecting them to be good. Like I started because my favorite story about the Wright brothers is this one. It's very quick. Is that every time the Wright brothers went out to fly their plane, they were bringing up extra materials from multiple crashes, which means every time they went out, they knew they would fail. And they would crash and rebuild and crash and rebuild. And that's why they took off. And I love that story.
Yeah.
I wanted my son to hear that story, my daughter to hear that story. I want everyone to know you dream big and you work hard and you have a good side over from stubbornness. You can do anything in this world.
I love side over stubbornness.
That's it. That's it. And to me, that's all we do in these books is we give you, and they're not history books, they're value books. So on the back of I Am Amelia Earhart, it says, I know no bounds. On the back of I Am Abraham Lincoln, it says, I will speak my mind and speak for others. On the back of I Am Princess Diana, it says, I lead from the heart. They're all about the right values that you want to give your kids and grandkids and nieces and nephews. And those values are ones that, whatever your politics, there's no politics in our book, we all can agree that the culture needs more decency and more compassion. And we need to teach our kids how to persevere. They're going to get knocked down, but again, persevere, fight back and get back up again.
And I do love how you seamlessly lead us into the final part of this interview, which is about talking about leading our kids. You famously gave the commencement speech at your son's college graduation, which, because you are Brad, was not just a speech, but turned out to be this whole thing. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was great. It was so at University of Michigan, 70,000 people in the stadium. I'm focused on one. My son was graduating that day. He was sitting there in the 14th row. I could see him. And what I did is I said, I want to speak about magic. because, that's what magic is, something I'm obsessed with. As a writer, that's what we do, right? We make things appear out of thin air. And if you talk to magicians, there are 4 types of magic tricks. 1, you make something appear. 2, you make something disappear. 3, you take 2 things, you make them switch places. And the 4th magic trick is you take one thing and you turn it into something else. The hardest trick of all, transformation. And I walk through all the tricks of what you have to do. And when I got to the 3rd trick, which is where you take 2 things and make them switch places, I said, here, let's talk about empathy. Because that's what empathy is, right? It's switching places with someone else and putting yourself in their shoes. And I told this story about when I was a kid. My family, we ran out of money and had nothing left. And we moved down to Florida from New York. And my parents had so little, we couldn't even afford a security deposit. We had to live with my grandparents. So it was 6 of us, my mom, my dad, my sister, myself, and 2 grandparents, 6 of us in a 1-bedroom apartment. And everyone was trying to get us evicted because they were like, you can't have that many people in there. I was terrified. It was scary to me. Every day we were going to be evicted. And this one woman across the hall saw what was happening to us. And she said, I see what's going on with your family. She said to my grandmother, I'm going to move out. And I want you to take my apartment for a couple of weeks so your family doesn't get evicted. To this day, Hank, the nicest thing anyone has ever done for me or my family. And as a kid, I remember her name was Mercy. But as a kid, I always heard her name as Mercy. And make no mistake, mercy and empathy is what she showed us. And I'm telling this story in the stadium about the value of empathy that we've talked about. And I could just hear people just lost it. I mean, I didn't know. I'm like, why are they clapping for this part? And I realized in that moment that we're a culture that's starving for empathy. And when the speech was done, everyone from Katie Couric to Maria Shriver, I don't know any of these people, I started sharing it online, that section of the speech. And the thing just went everywhere and millions of people saw it. And we decided, they asked us to make a book of it. So we did this book, Make Magic. It's called The Book of Inspiration You Didn't Know You Needed. And we sent it out. And I never thought it was going to hit the bestseller list to do anything, but it just showed that it's this little tiny book, a $10 book of inspiration you can just give out, not just as a graduation gift, but just for anyone who needs inspiration on any given day, and read those magic tricks. And it was a gift I was giving my son and my kids. And once again, I'm not that special. There were plenty of people who wanted to give their kids the exact same thing.
Brad Meltzer, you are such a treasure. It is such a joy to talk with you today about your brand new The Viper and I Am Princess Diana and Make Magic is completely wonderful. All of you, you know what to do. Run, 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 click, click, click. Get these books. Not quite yet, because we want to take some questions from the audience.
Yes.
We'll spin the wheel of fun. Jade, who has a good question that from the audience? I see, so many people here. Andrew says, thrillers, comics, or nonfiction, which requires the most research? I sense some similarities. Hey, Andrew.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Andrew. Good question. The thing that they all require the comics, I don't need to research. I got the comic stuff because I write Superman and Spider-Man and all. I'm, in fact, writing Superman and Spider-Man for Marvel coming in April. That I got in my head. I never need research for those, for the most part. I'll look back at an issue or two. But the thrillers and the nonfiction, it's the same research. It's the same exact research. And there's one of them I use footnotes, and one of them you just never see the footnotes. But it's not like one requires more. The only thing is in the nonfiction books, you just need to footnote everything. So that just takes more work. But yeah, as you can tell, Andrew, I love the research. That's the fun part for me.
And it comes through so gorgeously in all of the books. I want to welcome all of you. If I haven't already, Sherry Stull is here, and Vicki Gregory is here. Julie Brinkley is here. Sherry Steuben is here. So nice to see all of you. Sue Street, Patricia Butler Steffen is here. Renee Herskowitz. So nice, all of you, to come. We're all first drafts, says Julie Brinkley. She says she loves that.
Amen.
Who else has a question? Have you found, Sherry says, have you found things in your research you can't tell anyone?
I like Sherry. Sherry's invited to the barbecue. Like, Sherry knows she wants the gossip, right? Like, tell me the stuff. Like, I remember doing a book signing, someone was like, tell me what you can't tell anyone, just whisper it to me. And I was like, that's my kind of person. Of course. Yeah. I mean, one of the things, every single book, the one thing, Sherry, that I will never, ever tell is I will never, I'll show you if you go into the secret tunnel below the White House, I'll show you where it is. You can see exactly where to make the turn. I can tell you, go into the ground floor corridor, make the left at the statue of FDR. You're going to see chairs stacked up to the ceiling. That's where they store all the chairs for the state dinner. Go out that back room. There's another door. You're going to see that the HVAC equipment starts coming down from above. So the ceiling's going to get a little lower. At the end of that hallway, you're going to make a right-hand turn. You're going to see a metal door. That's the entrance to the underground bunker that they actually just are now replacing. But that's the secret tunnel below the White House. That's where you can get out. And
wait, we're all writing this down now.
Yeah, right. But and it's in one of my books. You can see it in there. But what I will always change and what I won't tell anyone is the security protocols on that door. That's the one thing. So if you see like a pin pad, and it's it may be that that was a thumb reader, or if it was an eye scanner, maybe that was the thumb reader. Like I want to tell you a good story, but not at the expense of national security. So they'll always you can learn the stuff, but what I always hold back is the security protocols.
We're very grateful for that. And
listen, my wife worked in the Capitol. I was like, I'm not crazy like that. You got to take care of that stuff.
I worked in the Capitol for several years as well, and it was such a humbling and gorgeous experience. Changes your view of everything. One last question, Jade, and then we'll go to spin the wheel of fun for the 2 winners. Who else has a question? Do you have any say in the cover, says Julie?
Yeah, Julie wants to know. I do. Yeah, I'm crazy about this cover. I hope you liked it, Julie, because as someone who works in comics, my graphic sense, my mom was an interior designer, so graphics mean a lot to me. We in fact had a vote on our Instagram, on our Facebook, where we put up, the cover was originally red and one was orange, and we had people actually vote on which one they wanted because they were torn. I vote on all those things, and I very much weighed in on it. So I hope that question is not, did you have any say in this cover because it's so bad, but it was, did you have any say in this cover because it's so good?
So cool. Yeah.
You know how I knew it was good though, Julie? It's because my daughter, who's in college and hates everything, said, "Dad, that's a cool cover," and I was like, "Uh-oh." If we've impressed her, like, anything's possible.
Exactly. Anything is possible, except that we need to cut this.
Yes, we got to cut it. Wait, yes. Spin the wheel.
You've been wait. Okay, you've been great. So let's say, Jade, we're going to spin the wheel of fun for one of the books for the Viper. You're going to win.
Oh.
People are here. This is great. And the winner is Julie.
Oh, she asked a question.
That's great. Fantastic. Congratulations, Julie. You'll get some instructions about how
to I can't hear you.
Book.
Here comes another.
And here is for Diana. And the winner is Sue Street. That's wonderful. Congratulations to both of you. The rest of you, you know what to do. Run, click.
Okay.
Click. Get your own copy.
I can't hear you, but I hope you can.
We can hear you, Brad. We can hear you. Run, click. Get your copy of The Viper. Stick around because in about 10 minutes, we will be talking to Tracy Sierra, wonderful new book about her new book, Warning Signs. You do not want to miss that. So we will see you in about 10 minutes. Brad, can you hear me now? No.
I can't hear you, but I love you.
Love you too, darling.
Thanks, Hank. Thanks to everyone who tuned in today.
Talk to you all later.
Thanks, Prime Time.
It's always safe inside a book. Thanks, Brad.